What's up? How you doing? Here we are. We're probably on the border of Malibu and Santa Monica. Not bad out. It's not cold. I have a jacket. It's more for a little bit of comfort, but it's not cold. It's very mild. Murky. You can see behind me the murkiness. A lot of volleyball nets. When I was a kid back in my prime, I used to play a little bit of volleyball. I'm talking here like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, those years. And in the summertime, not in the wintertime, but in the summertime we'd go on vacation and somebody would always have a net and a volleyball. We'd set it up in the backyard and we'd play. Be like 5 on each side. And you know, when you're young, you have the speed, the agility, and you go back and forth. You know, it's not a bad thing. Now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking it's going to take a lot of energy going back and forth, so I'd rather watch. But you never know. I haven't played it in decades, so I am probably horrible at it right now. But you know, it's a good sport. Builds up endurance, hand-eye coordination. Although for hand-eye coordination, I will play Miss Pac-Man, right? Sugar Ray Leonard, when he was fighting, he was fighting, I think, I don't know if it was Hagler, but they showed him training on a Pac-Man machine to improve his hand-eye coordination. And even at my age, it does improve your hand-eye coordination. I've been playing, I have Miss Pac-Man at the house, and I haven't played it in a long time. So when I first played it, I was getting like about 30,000, 35,000 points. Then I went into the 40s, and I'm talking about a short period. I went into the 40s, then I went to the high 40s, then the 50s, and now I'm in the 60s. And this is after about 2 weeks of playing. I'm like at about 64,000, my high right now, on that little machine. I used to play that in the old days. A lot of people will, they will say, oh, muscle memory. I don't know why they use that phrase for anything you do. I mean, it's not, okay, muscle memory, but I think originally muscle memory was if you worked out in your younger years, and then you got a little bit older and you worked out again, you could get into shape a lot quicker and show definition and bulk a lot faster than somebody who had never exercised in their life and then went to get into shape. So that's what I associate muscle memory with. Not that, you know, like I heard one time Billy Joel, he was talking about playing the piano or something, he called it muscle memory. Now, I may be wrong, but I don't think that that's what muscle memory is. I think muscle memory is, if say you were a bodybuilder back in 1979, right, and then you stopped working out, and then you went and started lifting again, you would start looking like you were getting in shape a lot quicker than somebody who had never been in shape and started lifting today. And they would never get into that kind of shape. So like old bodybuilders right now, like say they're in their 60s and they haven't worked out in like 25 years, but they used to be in great shape. If they started working out again, they would, you know, get into good shape again for their age category. So beautiful, nice. It's you know, I see some people jogging, which I find very boring now. I used to jog. Get in there, start jogging. I used to jog. I had this really hilly area, in my town there where I'm from, and I used to go at night. Used to, you know, 3.5, 4 miles, right? Good pace. And then one day I was at school, freshman year, and a teacher, this was at the end of the day, so I was walking by the hallway, last room on the left. I hear my name, and teacher noticed me walking by. So I went in there, he called me in, and he goes, hey, you know, last night this is my teacher talking. He goes, last night I was driving around and I saw you jogging. He goes, I didn't know you did that. And I said, I do. And then we discussed all kind of other things that came as a result of him seeing me jogging. And then we talked about Muhammad Ali and all that. And I still remember what he said, and I agree 100% with it. I mean, I agreed with it even before he said it, but he had said to me that how much greater would Ali have been had he had not lost those 3 years of his prime when all that draft stuff was going on with the Supreme Court. And it's 100% true. He lost 3 of the best years of his life when it comes to, you know, being athletic. He lost the 3 best years. So he would have been a lot greater, and possibly would not have suffered the brain damage, because he would have quit a lot sooner, I presume, right? So I'm thinking if he boxed those 3 years, he may have been satisfied financially, where he said, okay, I've had enough, I'm done, and he would have been a lot better off than the way he ended up fighting Leon Spinks, Trevor Burke, Larry Holmes. You know, I think Trevor Burke was the last one. I think that's what his name was. But he took unnecessary beatings. And I'll tell you this, I'm not a fan of the strategy, rope-a-dope. No, I don't think that's not a good strategy. You end up getting beaten to death until the other guy gets tired, and then you come back with your second wind and knock him out. That kind of damage later on in life, it shows. You know, he did that with George Foreman, you know, rope-a-dope. But he did that with a lot of fights. You notice a lot of fights where Ali's against the ring, the ropes, and he's taking a big beating. Yeah, that's not healthy. Not healthy. They should have come up with a different strategy. Angelo Dundee should have said to Ali, we're not going to do it that way. We're gonna do some kind of you know, evasive boxing, where I know maybe you don't have the same speed you had back when you fought Sonny Liston, but we're going to try and increase your speed using plyometrics and head movement and all that, but we're not going to stay on the ropes and allow the guy to beat you up like a boxing bag. I think most of his you know, most of the problems he had later on neurologically came as a result of the rope-a-dope technique. Not a good idea, you know. I mean, that's not the way to win fights. It's like, I will beat you, I will get you tired by you beating on me, and then I will come in and knock you out. So anyway, my teacher and I spoke. He probably doesn't remember the conversation. And I remember he was 33 years old. My teacher was at the time. I go, you're very young compared to all the other teachers, but he was 33. And now, who knows? Old with a cane if he's still around. But I remember I went in there and we talked about Ali, we talked about boxing, which I'm a huge fan. So I was in there for like about an hour talking to him. And because of that, I had a different viewpoint about my teacher. You know, I saw him more as a human than, you know, a strict dictator at the front there with the ruler. So, yeah, good guy, good guy. It was very funny, too. He had a good sense of humor. Irishman. Did not have the accent, though, which I love the accent. You know, you can't beat that accent. Makes you feel clean, you know, because I guess I always think about Irish Spring, the Irish Spring soap. Remember the old days? The guy looked all clean, had a nice wool white sweater on. Maybe there was a horse walking by. And he smelled fresh. And then they had a knife to show you that that freshness went all the way through, and they would cut a portion of the soap. And in those days the soap was slightly different. I think now they made it more so that you can grip it better. But yeah, that was one of the soaps I liked as a kid. My house, I've mentioned it before, but my house, Ivory soap was the king. My parents, especially my mother, she didn't like the fragrance stuff. So we always got Ivory, and it floated. I don't know if it still floats. I have to try that. I have Ivory at the house. I'll experiment later. But we had Ivory, and that's how I grew up with that soap, Ivory. But every once in a while, when we would go to the supermarket on a Friday night, I would sneak in some Irish Spring soap. And then when Coast was developed, I started getting Coast. I remember when Coast came out, I started taking a shower in the morning. Mrs. Smith, or Miss Smith, I forget which one. I think it was Miss Smith, yeah. she gave us, it was English class, but she gave us a whole lecture on hygienics, how to stay clean and how we should take a daily shower. And that was in the 6th grade. So I started taking a shower every single morning starting at the 6th grade, you know. And the first shower I took, I remember, it was nice and cold out, right? So my mother was happy with that, which has nothing to do with anything, but she thought it did. But I ignored her. I went in, I took my nice hot shower, and I used Coast, the eye opener. And I remember my friend came by, you know, he would walk by the house and stop and ring my doorbell, and then we'd both go up to the bus stop together. And I felt refreshed. I felt like this awesome feeling of like I was energized, you know. And from that point on, every morning, shower. Which I think, you know, if you're not going to take one every morning, you should at least take 5 showers a week, at least. You know, but yeah, I'm a big fan of that morning shower. But anytime, you know, is fine. I remember one time in the winter, the pilot of the water heater went out some point at night. And I got up in the morning, I would get up at like 10 minutes before 7. And I got in there and I put it on, you know, to take a nice hot shower, and the water was coming out ice. Freezing, right? So I had to wash my body with that iced water and then rinse with the same freezing cold water coming out of that shower head. But I'll tell you this, when I shut off the water and I came out, I felt energized. I felt good, invigorating the water was. So I understand the benefits of a cold shower. It's just that when I'm taking it, I'm not enjoying it. But after it feels awesome. So yeah, I do appreciate a cold shower, but I only take them if I have to. You know, like something's wrong with the water heater and I have to take a cold shower, then and only then. I have never taken a cold shower on purpose. My showers are always extremely hot. Extremely hot. I love them extra hot. So yeah, I remember that though, Miss Smith. Miss Smith, I believe to this day, gave us that lecture because we had a kid in our class who never showered. And I think she found it as a good opportunity to make it look like she was teaching us all a lesson. This is English class. It's not gym class or health class or science class. So I think she wanted to tell that kid, you need to take a shower. And she didn't want to single him out. So she gave everybody the lecture. And yeah, but I remember this kid, his hair was curly to begin with, but he never washed it or combed it. It was all tied together, you know, it was like disgusting. And then he had a very unique, like a urine smell to him. I think he may have wet the bed. It happens, right? You know, I don't know, can't get up in time. I don't know. It happens. So he would do it, and he wouldn't take a shower in the morning. He would probably change clothes, but the urine after time would start, you know, emitting the fragrance into the atmosphere, and we would smell it. And it was, you know, after a while it would get heavy. So I think she would notice it because she would walk by him to right in the blackboard. He was right next to the blackboard. And she probably said, I'm going to give a talk on this hygiene stuff. She talked about brushing teeth, combing hair, deodorant, all that stuff. And she spent a week on that. And then I remember she would specifically go towards him to find out, hey, did you guys bathe in this, you know, area? And then maybe he understood it was about him, but he got up and he was saying, I combed my hair today and I did this and this, and he would explain to the teacher what he had done. But you know, I didn't have that issue, so they never came to me. But I decided it was good advice anyway to take a shower every day. And when I first started doing it, because I was the first one in my family to do the daily shower, my parents thought it was excessive. They were like, you're gonna rot. I go, no, you're not. I'm not gonna rot. And my mother's like, you're gonna catch a cold, you're going out, it's 20 degrees out. My hair would freeze though. I would go out and it would be like 20 degrees in the morning to catch the bus, and my hair would become like really like almost like icicles. And then on the bus I'd steam out. but I didn't care. I enjoyed my morning shower. I love showers. When I go to a hotel, I take even a longer shower there, even a longer shower. So yeah, anyway, I want to take a look around. I see a lot of people walking their dogs. Sometimes I wish I had a dog, and then other times I go, it's a lot of work with a dog. You know, I don't mind doing it, but I'm thinking about, what about if I go on vacation? What about if I'm traveling? The dog becomes an issue. You have to find a person you trust, you know, and it gets to be a problem after a while. What I was thinking is, if I had a ranch, nice big ranch, and then you let the dog go free if you don't feel like walking it, right? You have like a nice, I don't know, 5-acre ranch, and the dog can just roam around on its own if you don't feel like walking. Sometimes, you know, you don't feel good, get a little bit of a, you know, bug, rhinovirus, you know, maybe you got the chills, you don't feel like walking the dog. Well, if you have a big ranch, you let the dog go out and let him do his stuff. Anyway, that's it. You know, I should look up my teacher there, you know, I don't know. But he's got one of those Irish names that probably a million people have, so it's not that easy to find. I'd have to find somebody who knows him, and then maybe then. Anyway, so I'm gonna take a gander around here. So this right now reminds me exactly of a dream I had the other night. 2 nights ago, in my dream, I'm walking exactly like where I am right now. But it's not here, it's somewhere else, right? But it looks like this. It's murky out. Matter of fact, there's a bit of a drizzle in the dream. And I'm walking, it's a bit darker, right? And going towards that direction. Everything's fine. You know how dreams are. The next thing I realize that I'm in the water, in the ocean, up to here, with my clothes on. And I'm thinking, now I'm walking that way in the ocean. Originally I was going that way, on foot, on land. Now I'm in there, still on foot, but in the ocean, dressed up, and I'm going that way. And I'm trying to figure out how I ended up in the ocean. And the undertow was pulling. I could feel it, and there's a slight, very slight, but it's there, panic. I could feel it in my dream, that I feel that if I tried to come out, I wouldn't be able to. So it's drizzly in there, and it's even darker now, and you can hardly see the land. I'm starting to lose a visual on the land. I don't even attempt to get out, I just wake up. I guess my mind said, don't even bother, just wake up, you're home. But yeah, I was in the ocean, and the water was like right under my chin. Right under my chin. And I will tell you, in real life, in reality, when you go swimming in these waters here, the undertow is crazy. And I tell my kids this all the time, don't go deeper than like your waist. Because I've done that where I've gone in and then all of a sudden I'm like floating on my back and I get pulled out. And then to come back in, it's really, really difficult. Very, very hard. The undertow is crazy. And I know they tell you to swim that way, and then when it gives up, the undertow, when it stops pulling on you, then come in. But how do I know that swimming that way is not going to exhaust me more than just fighting the undertow? You know, what about if I have to swim that way like 300 feet or more? And the worst thing, when you're in there and it's wavy and you can't get your breath because the waves are taking you under. Gotta watch out, especially when there's a lot of undertow, like a strong undertow. I don't know, a lot, but I'd rather say a strong undertow. But yeah, like I said, this resembles my dream. Well, at least my dreams are very entertaining. They are. I have some good ones.